right. We're live. We try to do that commercial thing, and I think it went well.
Yes, thank you. We're getting it together.
We're getting it together. We're working it, honey. We're working it. So thank you so much for coming back to our show. Nikki Grant it's here, your co-host, and Sandra Sheffer. So we are back with our series of meeting the District 20 candidates that qualified to be in the primary that's coming up in November. So we've met with several, and this is another candidate, Elvin J. Dowling. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it correctly.
You are.
Oh, great. Awesome. And so we're going to continue on with our questions. I know that, we've spoken to a couple of people, and, we've even been featured on an article from Red Broward. Thank you so much, Red Broward. We, peace out. And so you may think that we have like a hot seat over here, but we don't. We just asking questions that everybody has questions, and we want the people to know. One of the reasons why I want to repeat this again, that Sandra and I started this show, is because of my frustration with the shooting of Ahmaud Arbery. And I was really upset about it, and talked to Sandra, who's my perfect sounding board. And she was like, talk to me, let's let it out. And then it was birthed out of that, because we want our people, Black people, our community, to be politically participate, to be politically knowledgeable, to be part of the process, to have a seat at the table. And so we're here, and we have this great opportunity to talk to candidates who are running for District 20, which is a diverse district, and a district that's left without representation since the great Alcee Hastings has passed away. And unfortunately, we have a governor who thinks that district doesn't deserve representation. And so we're still here trying to get this situated. And we wanted to talk to the candidates. So we did this, and we're happy to do it. I'm going to let my co-host introduce herself. And then we're going to read a little bit of Elvin Dowling's bio. And then we're going to go and allow him to talk and give his perspective. And then we're going to go into questions.
All right. Good evening, everyone. We're back at it again. I'm Sandra Sheffer, one of your co-hosts of Race and the Races, and I'm also the president of the Democratic Women's Club of Greater Broward. I'm not here in that capacity today. I'm here as a co-host of Race and the Races, and we have the pleasure this evening of speaking with Reverend Elvin Dowling. He's one of the candidates out of Palm Beach County that's running for this seat, right? Because one of the things people tend to forget is that former Rep. Alcee, with his passing, not only were people in Broward County that were affected, he had a lot of support in Palm Beach County. And Elvin is one of the, I think it's about 3 of you out of Palm Beach. I believe Amari Hardy is out of Palm Beach, and Priscilla Taylor is out of Palm Beach. Most of the candidates are from Broward, but Palm Beach is very much a part of this race. And we also need to reach out to that particular audience and let them, be informed of who their options are for this particular seats. There is a libertarian who we're supposed to speak, that's in the race, that we're supposed to speak with next week. We have 2 more of the Democratic candidates we're going to speak with, and they all bring something different to the table, right? Some of the interviews where, it seemed like we all had a good time. We were getting along. The candidates answer the question, and we had a couple of them that were a little intense. I've had the pleasure of seeing Reverend Dowling on another forum. I believe it's going to be a very pleasant interview, because he's had a very pleasant disposition.
I concur.
On occasions when we've seen him, so I don't think there's no reason for us to, be afraid of what this conversation will turn into.
We're all friends.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Because it's like, it's just been a range, and, yes. And that Red Broward article that my co-host Darnique was talking about. We didn't make that paper for the wrong reasons. I believe that candidate made that paper for all of the wrong reasons. And we're not here to have any of those moments. We're really just here to give people an opportunity in order for them to develop their platform. Because I've seen them on other panels, and one of the things, I don't think they have enough time to fully answer the question. So that's why we provide this space, and that's really what it's about, and nothing more than that.
Absolutely. All right. So let me go into reading Mr. Dowling's bio. Elvin Dowling is an award-winning author, activist, and architect of change, who is proud native of West Palm Beach, Florida, a staunch advocate of educating future generations of leaders by equipping them with the resources and skills they need to be productive members of society. Elvin has worked to elevate the lives of the least of these with unsatiable, you know, I have problems with words, right?
Unassailable.
What?
Unassailable.
Unassailable, honey. I'm going to look that up. Okay. I'm not too ashamed to say, well, I don't know a word, honey.
That's when people realize that we're foreigners, right? Like that English isn't our first language. Is like when we have to say certain words in English and it doesn't come out. I'm like, yeah, that's the accent. And that's the foreign part of me.
Blame the Haitian in me, okay?
Yeah, that's when the foreign part shows up.
There you go. In 2014 and again, in 2014 and again in 2015, Elvin has successfully in securing 2 separate grants for $1 million each to conduct mentoring activities for 2,200 at-risk youth in 30 cities as part of President Barack Obama's My Brother's Keeper initiative. I love that. Power to you. And I'm not gonna say your whole thing because I want you to be able to talk more about it. But we're going to send it over to you and give you an opportunity to tell people a little bit more about you, where you come from, what you stand for, and then we'll go into questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having me this evening. I'm just peacock proud and high and happy to be joining Race and the Races. It's interesting you were talking about how this show was birthed because I had a very similar experience many years ago after the murder of Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. I found myself sort of screaming at the TV and using unreverential language, if you will. And I said, somebody's got to do something. And my wife said, well, apparently that somebody is you. And so I ended up writing this book, Still Invisible. I did not start out to write a 530-page tome on what it means to be a Black man in America, but it's a long story. But it started just like that. I grew up on the corner of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard and Tamarind Avenue in West Palm Beach, which if you've ever been to the corner of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard and West Palm Beach and Tamarind Avenue in West Palm Beach, most people would say run. But it's a community that I love. My front door, when I looked out my front door, I saw Church's Fried Chicken. And when I looked out the back door, I saw the Coleman Funeral Home. Now imagine that. And so that's from where I've come. Now, I grew up in West Palm Beach, but I'm going to tell you a little secret. I'm actually a resident of Miramar. I live in Broward County. And so I'm probably the only candidate who truly understands both sides of the district, because the district is indeed from West Palm Beach to Miramar and many points in between. I serve as chairman of an organization called Palm Beach Harvest, which is one of the largest food banks in West Palm Beach and in Palm Beach County. And when COVID hit, we were able to feed more than 2 million people since then, nearly about 20 million pounds of food. But I've been a resident of Miramar in Broward County for the last decade. And so I understand the challenges that both sides of the district face, and I believe I'm equipped to help address those issues.
All right. And so what experience do you bring to that? We've spoken to people, and there's a range of experience in why people believe that they're qualified for this position. We have people who are elected officials that have been doing it 10, 12 years. We have some folks that have like no experience whatsoever. There's some that have very little experience, just some with government. So what experience do you experience that you believe you have, professional and or personal, that prepares you for this position?
Sandra, I appreciate that question. And let me just say that I am not a career politician. I want to say it again. I am not a career politician. So if that is what a voter is looking for, I'm probably not your choice. Don't vote for me. Now, when's the last time you heard somebody say that? And so, I have been serving real people in a real way for a long time. I got my start really in government working for the first African-American county commissioner in Palm Beach County, a lady by the name of the late Maud Ford Lee, who was dynamic. She was the first Black person elected to the county commission, and the first Black woman who became the chair of the Palm Beach County Commission. And so I worked for her for many years in Palm Beach County government. And then I went to work for Congressman Alcee Hastings in Washington, D.C., at his office, working for free on behalf of the people of this district. And so I think it's interesting to note that I'm the only person in this race who has actually worked in that office for these people. I have been serving people, as I said, most of my life. I went on to serve as chief of staff for the National Urban League in New York City. But before I did that, I served as chief of staff for Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity, where I worked for a number of years and helped to build the Washington, D.C. Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial, which is in between the Lincoln and the Jefferson memorials, a $110 million project that I had the pride of working to help make sure that that was built. And so those are things that leave a lasting legacy. But in terms of what have I done for the people right now, as Janet Jackson would say, what have you done for me lately? When COVID-19 hit in March of last year, government failed us. How do I know that? How do we know that? Because we turned on the TV and we saw lines stretched a mile long of people who had lost their jobs, were losing income, and could not feed their families. I stood up as chairman of one of the largest food banks in this state. I stood up and went to the mayors of the cities of Riviera Beach and Belle Glade and South Bay and Pahokee and said, what can we do? And we were able to provide food, and we've still been doing it every single week, provide food to hungry people because our government failed us. Now, in fairness to our government leaders, and I do believe we need to ask the question, who was in charge when the fit hit the shan? But in fairness to them, they have showed up to our food distributions. Now, the only difference between them and me is they show up with cameras and I show up with trucks. And I show up with trucks every single week. I believe that leadership and government should be about actually producing results for people. So what have you done, Brother Dowling? Well, I mentioned that I grew up in one of the toughest neighborhoods in West Palm Beach. I had brothers who were murdered on the streets of Palm Beach County in the 1990s. And I had a choice. I could be bitter or I could be better. And I decided that I wanted to be better and do something to transform this pain into a passion that was meaningful for real people. And so I not just went and started mentoring young people, but I raised money. We raised $2 million to mentor. When I counted, it was more than 3,000 kids from Riviera Beach to Miramar to Rialto, California, and all across this country. And so I believe that we need somebody who is actually going to be a leader. And that's why I believe that I am probably most qualified to serve in this capacity.
All right. So we have a question in the chat that really talks to what you just mentioned. And the question is coming from Tamiko. Hi, Tamiko. She says, good evening. Have you experienced or been impacted by gun violence as a Black man in South Florida? If so, what was your response? So
when I was 14 years old, my favorite cousin James was shot 9 times and dumped along the side of A1A because of poor choices that he made. When I was 19, I was a student at Hampton University. My brother Bryant was killed in a drive-by shooting as he sat on the corner of 4th and Tamarind in West Palm Beach in his car. That was my sophomore year in college. My junior year in college, my brother Rod was killed with a shotgun because he got in a fight over a girl at a park on the corner of 47th and Pinewood in West Palm Beach. I know what gun violence means, particularly for people of color. I make no mistakes about the fact that I will fight the NRA tooth and nail to do something that is meaningful in terms of gun legislation to stop this ridiculous carnage in our community. I know what this pain means, and I did something about it. And so I talked about the money that I raised, and that's good. That's fine. But one of the things that I am very cognizant of the fact that Elvin Dowling is going to die one day, and I want to leave it all on the table. And so I have mentored people who have become doctors and lawyers and very successful people. And I don't say that as a means of impressing you more than to impress upon you that it means something to me. I mentioned my second book, and I won a Pulitzer. Well, I was nominated for a Pulitzer Prize. I won the Florida Book Award this year. Best book in the state of Florida on what it means to be a Black man in America. I have studied these issues because I have lived these issues. I believe if we're going to send somebody to Congress, it ought to be somebody that understands what Black folk are going through, what Hispanic folks are going through, what poor people are going through. And so, yes, I have experienced gun violence, and I will do everything I can in Congress to stop it.
Awesome. Okay. There's do you want to do the other question in the chat, Sandra?
Yeah, there's a question in the chat about, you're saying that you're not a career politician. So the question in the chat is about term limits. Do you support term limits for elected officials? And even if there are any term limits, do you have a game plan or a strategy, is probably a better word, because this is not a game, this is real stuff here. Do you have a strategy on how long it would take for you to put forth the ideas that you're looking to see happening in DC? And if so, how much time do you foresee you needing in order for you to accomplish those goals?
Sure. And thank you for the question. So the short answer is yes, I do. And in fact, I signed the U.S. Term Limits Pledge, vowing that if I get the privilege of being elected to Congress and serving the people, because I'm interested in serving people. I have lived my life dedicated to people. If I get that privilege, I will vote for that legislation. I would encourage people to go to my website, dowlingforthepeople.com. Soon as you get to the top, there's a big old word that says accountability. If you clicked on that word, you will see the pledge I signed for term limits. Has my signature right there on the bottom, says Elvin J. Dowling, and that I commit to doing that. But I didn't just commit to doing that. I also committed to being transparent and honest and ethical in office. Why is that important? Because I'm tired, and I believe people are tired of crooks in our offices, in public office. And so what do I want to do about it? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is not accept corporate PACs. And that's sort of the cliche thing that people say, but I'm not taking any of their dirty money. We've got people in this race who have almost never filed FEC reports. Like when you pull up their name and you pull up, and these are folk who've run for office before, they know better. And you pull up their name and it says, not filed late, failure to report, 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 failure to report 9 times in 11 cycles. Got more money.
Okay, what is the significance? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what is the significance of a person not filing their reports? What difference does that make?
Because you ought to know.
Don't understand.
Yes.
Because people ought to know who is behind their candidates and where this money is coming from. And not just people ought to know, but it's the law. And as a federal candidate, we are supposed to file FEC reports to tell where we get our money from, to tell who has contributed to our campaigns. We're not just that, we're also supposed to file financial disclosure reports. There's no excuse for not telling us where your money comes from. Well, Mr. Dowling, do you practice what you preach? Yes, I do. Glad you asked that question. Go to my website, Dowling for the People. Click on accountability. You will see my financial disclosure form. You will see my FEC report. You will see my pledge for term limits. Look. And
so are you saying, and I don't mean to cut you, so are you saying when those who don't file, are you saying that shows the other candidate's character by not being transparent? And are you saying that you are transparent and you will always be that way? Is that what you're trying to say?
What I'm saying is that to be a congressman or woman means more than just to wear a pin. It requires intrinsic qualities developed deep within. It calls for character and commitment. Words sometimes used in vain. It means an honest devotion, not anticipation of personal gain. And so if we're going to be committed to this office, you ought to tell us who you are. Tell us where your resources come from. The law requires it. The people require it. Let me just say this. Everybody you have talked to and everybody you will talk to who's running for this office will tell you, I support the For the People Act. If you haven't asked the question, go back to the other forums, because they all say, I support the For the People Act. Well, what does the For the People Act say? It says that you should tell us where your money comes from. You should fill out your FEC forms. You should fill out your disclosure forms. That's what the For the People Act is, and it bars the dark money. Listen, I drive around this district. I see all of these signs. We don't know where the money comes from. They're not filing disclosures. You ought to be concerned about that. There's a reason why there is a movement to end dark money, not just in politics, but in the way we govern this country, because Americans have had enough. And look, I do have a cost. I'll be honest, but what I have has been paid with a cost, and I am unbought and unbossed. And you can't buy my vote with promises that, one, everybody knows you can't keep, and money that we don't know where it comes from. I have a problem with that, and I will fight against that in Congress.
Well, on still talking on that same subject, another comment here. Ms. Rose says, are you saying that they don't file because they don't want to expose their financial support, where their financial support comes from? And on another note, what is the penalty for not filing?
Does a bear poop in the woods? Does a fat man fart? Yes, that is exactly what I'm saying. And I apologize. Look, I'm from the country and I'm a little slow, so y'all got to excuse me. But the short answer is yes. That's exactly what I'm saying. And the penalty right now is not enough. That's why there is the For the People Act, HR 4, because the penalty is not enough. And so we want to strengthen the penalties for that kind of behavior. If you don't, look, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, shame on you. But at some point, or however that goes, at some point, when you get to 9, 10 times, I do believe that this is not forgetfulness, nor is this a mistake. There is an intent to not tell us where your resources are coming from. There is a pattern and practice of behavior. And I believe that it's time that we stop that in our politics. People deserve more. They deserve a member of Congress who is actually going to stand up and represent people. I've been doing that my entire life. I was chief of staff of one of the largest civil rights organizations in America. I fought to help 436,000 people have access to good jobs, economic development opportunities. I want to do that in Congress if the people give me the opportunity to serve.
Okay. He said a lot. All right, so I want to shift the focus to education, even though I believe that you've been talking about that the whole time, particularly when you said you were mentoring young men. Folks that young men that you've mentored are now doctors, lawyers, and all different types of professionals. So there's a couple different conversations about education that's floating through the government right now. One of them is loan forgiveness. Because that student loan debt is a problem, and I'm one of those students that find it to be a problem, even though I've managed to get several professional degrees, but it's like I don't know if I ever will make enough to pay this back, right? So loan forgiveness is one. There's also a conversation about free college, right? For undergraduate degrees. And then the third point that I want to make, because this is about education on all different levels. When I went to school, we used to have trades in schools. Like you could learn, they had home economics. You could learn like sewing. The boys could learn like carpentry. Girls now if they want to, wood shop. And I learned how to type in 7th grade because they thought all I was going to be was a secretary. It ended up being extremely helpful when I got to college because I had to type up my papers. So I appreciate that skill set. So the question, education, what about bringing trades back into school? Like, is that something you think would be helpful? And if so, how would you do that? What's your position on free college, undergraduate degrees for all Americans? And what about a conversation about a loan forgiveness program?
Well, loan forgiveness, yes. Free college, yes. And let me say with regard to free college, there's an old movie years ago. It was called All Dogs Go to Heaven. And I believe that not only do all dogs go to heaven, all Black folk ought to get free college in the United States of America. We paid, we paid a sacrifice that has yet to be compensated. Now, I'm not going to get on that other than to say, where's our check? To be clear, without question. Now, you asked a question with regard to, tell me what was the last one.
So it was loan forgiveness, free college, and trades.
Trade,
and
yes.
Bringing trades back into like middle and high school.
Yes. So I write about that in my book, Still Invisible, Examining America's Black Male Crisis. I had the opportunity to interview 15 African-American men from all walks of life. And I focused in on 15 key issues that impact African-American men and really the African-American community in real, meaningful, and significant ways. And I interviewed Trayvon Martin's, one of his attorneys. I interviewed a fellow who was on the Cosby Show. I interviewed a brother who was in prison. But one of the folks I interviewed is a very well-known pastor who has been a professor at the collegiate level as well. And he talks about at the end of his interview how when his toilet breaks, he's not calling a professor. He's calling a plumber. And a plumber is going to charge him $175 an hour. And he says to himself every time he calls that plumber, we should have more trades. And I am convinced enough, having mentored a number of people who deserve to have a second chance and an opportunity to succeed. And having served as CEO for a time of one of the largest organizations in the state that sends students to college for free, organization called Take Stock in Children.
I'm a mentor in that organization.
So I was CEO for a while for Take Stock in Children, Palm Beach County. And so, this is passionate and personal for me. But I also learned that not everybody is college bound, nor wants to go to college. And we need more, plumbers and electricians and people who can help to fuel this society. When I was chief of staff at the National Urban League, I actually wore several hats. And one of the hats that I wore continuously was the director of facilities. And I was responsible for a 48,000 square foot facility on Wall Street in New York City, in addition to helping to manage the entire staff. And one of the things I realized real quick is that if I didn't depend on my facilities folks, my groundskeepers, then everything came to a stop. And so it was those salt of the earth people that helped to make the organization run. And so I want to invest in that. One of the things that I've campaigned on, and I'll just say this and stop talking, is this idea that we can combat crime in our community by investing in young people, by putting dollars into mentoring programs that's going to help them to succeed, into STEAM programs, but also into trade programs that our kids can use to develop to become productive members of society. So that's my thought on that.
All right.
Okay. You have follow-ups, co-host?
No, not on the education part. I agree with him on that.
Okay. So I have I can't remember if you were the first, but you were one of the people that sued president, man, get that out your mind, sis. Governor DeSantis.
I should have sued. You talking about Trump, but I should have sued him too.
But Governor, you were either one of the first, or
I was the first person in the state of Florida to sue DeSantis over his ridiculous mask mandate.
Mask mandates, right? And so, with that, which was a bold move on your part, you have some critics who say, you did that because you're running, and then you have those on the other side saying, "Wow, is this what we're going to look forward to as we continue on? If you get the opportunity to be our congressman to represent us, will you continue on with that energy and for our people, you're going to bring the smoke. You brought the smoke the first time. Will you plan on continuing on bringing that smoke? We had another one, another of your candidates that come on, one of your colleagues, and they were like, they're going to do their managed smoke, and we respect that. So what about you? What kind of smoke can we see Elvin Dowling bringing?
I don't know what the hell managed smoke is.
Let me just... I guess somebody was watching.
I don't know what that is, but I know what advocacy is, and fighting for real people in a real way. And that's what you're going to get with me.
Mhm.
You know, let me just say, yes, I was the first person in the state of Florida to sue Ron DeSantis because of his ridiculous mask mandate. And, you know, someone may say, well, he did it because he's running for office. So what? Somebody has to stand up and say something. If not me, then who? If not now, then when? I've never been one to sit on the sidelines and say, you know, somebody ought to do something. You know, that's how I got up. I want, this book is, and I'm not trying to sell books, so let me put it down. But
sell your book.
The work is now.
Sell your book.
Sell your book.
Sell your book.
It's permanently displayed. Yes, it's permanently displayed in the Florida governor's mansion. The same guy I sued. They as of April of this year, I won the Florida Book Award, and now it's permanently displayed in the Florida governor's mansion and in the Florida State Library. So if he goes to his library, if he goes to his own library, he'll see not just Elvin Dowling's name, but it also has Alcee Hastings' name right on the front because he wrote it with me. Okay. Because both Alcee Hastings taught me advocacy. He taught me leadership. Alcee Hastings is the reason why we have desegregated schools in Broward County, because he dared to speak up when everybody else sat silent. And not only was I the first person to sue him, and thank God, sue DeSantis, that is, over his mask mandate. And thank God a judge said that he's crazy as hell and you can't do that.
Pretty much.
Not only that, I also sued him to make sure we had an election.
That's
not
right.
just an election, this election. You talked about how, you know, Ron DeSantis stood in the way of us having voting rights. Yes, he did. And so what happened? I sued him in federal court. And it was because I sued him in federal court 4 days later, he set the election that I'm in right now. And I did it because I understand that this is a matter of voting rights. And in the United States of America, taxation without representation, last time I checked, was tyranny. And so somebody had to say something about it. And let me just say this. I'm in a race with doctors, lawyers, career politicians, people who have a boatload of money that Lord knows where it comes from, and lobbyists and lawyers who have a boatload of money.
But
you
also lobbyists. You got lobbyists running in this race also.
Well, it depends. You know, some weeks, let's be clear now, some weeks they're lobbyists. Some weeks they've actually written legislation. Like, right. I mean,
it's true.
Can I just say this? I grew up in the country and I'm a little slow, but I ain't that slow. You know, I thought you had to be a member of Congress to introduce legislation.
That's what I thought.
You know,
hold on, back up, Mr. Dowling. You have to be a member of Congress to introduce legislation.
No, but I think the comment was that they help write legislation.
Okay, all right.
Or propose legislation.
All I'm saying is, if you's a lobbyist, say you're a lobbyist. Don't be scared. Tell the truth and shame the devil. Let the chips fall where they may. If that's how you earn your money, good for you. Now, I have not, to be clear, I have not made my money on the backs of corporations who profit doing whatever it is they do. I have spent my life serving people, you know, in the fight, on the front lines. And so that's the type of advocacy that I want to bring to this congressional district. And let me just say this, you know, we've had folks in this race who they have been practicing law 20, 30 years. They have access to the courts and said nothing. They said not a mumbling word, quiet as a church mouse. And so what I will say to the people who are listening, if you give me the honor of serving, I will always speak up for you. Elvin Dowling is too big to fit in anybody's pockets. I'm not on anybody's roll, and I want to work for people. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Well, all right. So we have a question in the chat, and then we'll
an education question.
Follow up on the education. So Tamiko says, "I hear that you support education, but what would be your strategic plan for loan forgiveness, tuition-free college, and trade vocational programs in high school? What would be your plan of action? Mentoring is relative, but what else is there to serve a broader population?"
That's a great question. And at the end of the day, I have discovered that it really is all about the resources, the money. How do you pay for it? And so one of the things that I want to do is to advocate for the implementation of a reasonable means-based universal basic income that will target the working poor and the elderly. And so it's interesting because one of the folks running for office says, vote for me and you'll get, this is quotes, you will get $1,000 a month, 1,000 big old signs, $1,000 a month for you. Let's do the math. In terms of education and a strategic plan and free college tuition and all of those things, because you have to pay for them, right? And so how do we do that? If we do plan A, which is to send everybody that makes $75,000 or less, $1,000 a month, what is that going to mean? That's going to mean that if you add it all up, that's about $2.1 trillion a year. Okay. Well, the United States government, its annual budget is $4.2 trillion a year. Now, you do the math, that's about half. So we're going to blow a hole, boom, into half of the economy. What is that going to mean? That's going to mean you can say goodbye to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, disaster relief. So the next time we have an awful hurricane, because we live here in Florida, say bye to all that money, but say yes to $1,000 a month. I don't think it's a good idea. I think that if you focus it on people who are working poor, who are at or below the poverty line, and you focus on senior citizens, because I believe that after a certain age, nobody ought to be hungry. And I have seen our seniors in our food distribution lines. We have made special efforts to go to the senior citizens' homes and to deliver them meals because they can't make ends meet. And I think that in addition to Social Security, because for many seniors, Social Security ain't much of nothing. And so we ought to have that extra social safety net. How do you pay for it? How do you pay for free college tuition for all of these folks that we think we ought to do? I think we can have what's called a value added tax, a tax on actual services and goods, actually products rather. Let's tax them on the front end. And so every time we add value, say you have a shirt, a blank shirt, and you want to have a shirt distribution company. You got a blank shirt, then you got to put a picture on it. So there's the ink company. So every time you upgrade that shirt, you add a picture, there's a tax. And then maybe you want to add something else to the shirt, there's a tax. And then it comes to the end user. If you do that, you can pay for all of these free things that we talked about and can reinvest in things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. So there's a sensible way to do it, but I think it ought to be focused on the working poor and the elderly. Now, who's the working poor? When you look at it, most of the time it's Black and brown people. And so it's more than one way to skin a cat, and that's how I do it.
I have a follow-up question on that. So it's always about where the money come from, but we managed to spend money on a war for like 20 years, right? The president has made a hardline decision. All of the Americans that were there are out of Afghanistan right now. They're trying to get some of the allies and people who supported the troops out of there. So there's money coming from that's not being sent. That's not being spent on contractors, right? Because I mean, depending on what your position was on that war, one of the people that really profited from that war were people that had contracts, right? Government contracts. So we're getting a bunch of money back from that, right? And then we had those tax cuts that got even better under the last administration. So you have wealthy folks that are just not paying their fair share. We have a guy who in the middle of a pandemic just increased their value by like $100 billion, right? So
not paying any share.
Not a none. So those are ways that those things that should be able to get paid for without having to maybe take out Medicare and Social Security and that type of thing. What is your response to that? Because there are other ways to get money instead of just taxing people that's buying stuff.
Yes, that is true. And I think that there needs to be a reimagination in government, in where we spend our money. Tupac Shakur once said, we've got money for wars, but can't feed the poor. Mm-hmm. I understand. I know what it means to be hungry. And so, with regard to How do we get the money? There are a number of ways to get the money, but I don't think that we can get the money, nor do I believe that we should. And more importantly, it ain't gonna happen in terms of getting the money $1,000 a month for unless somebody's got a basement somewhere, and apparently they do, full of money, and we don't know where it comes from. It's not going to happen that way. And if they want you to believe that, I would say to you, if ands and buts were candy and nuts, every day be Christmas. I don't think it is.
You're killing me with your anecdotes, man.
Oh my God.
So listen, we're going to, because we know that you have another event to go to, and we're at the 45-minute mark. So we are going to one last question. I do have
I'm
one.
having a good
I have
time.
an immigration question
We can
too.
take it up as long as you want.
Okay, so co-host has a immigration question. I have my one last question. I've asked most, if not all, of the candidates that we spoke to about Belle Glades and Pahokee, which is really near and dear to my heart because those two cities are extremely impoverished. And I asked the other candidates, what are your plans to get those two cities to be in a better position if you have the opportunity to take this position? And mind you, your predecessor has had this position for quite some time. And I want you to bear that in mind when you're talking about those two cities, because they're still in this predicament, and your predecessor was one that did advocacy, that did fight. However, those two cities I feel have been very neglected. So
thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just say that the Glades holds a place that is near and dear to my heart. Belle Glade, South Bay, Pahokee. And how they go, I go. How they go, we go. Everybody talks about how important the Glades is. I get elected, I'm gonna make sure the Glades is right up front. But a good indicator of where people are or where they will be is where they've been. And I have spent a lot of time in the Glades, long before there was a race to fill a vacant seat left by a man who was like a father to me, who can never be replaced. When they needed meals for senior citizens in Pahokee at one of the larger senior citizen centers, I met with Reverend James White, and we made sure that 500 meals a week went out to our seniors because somebody had to do something. When COVID hit, I met with Mayor Babb. I met with Mayor Wilson. I met with the mayor of Pahokee. I met with all of them and said, what do you need? They said, we need food. I mentioned that we've been able to provide 20 million pounds of food, but almost half of it has gone to the Glades. And it went to the Glades because I made a phone call. And I have shown up in the Glades every single week for 16 months. And so when people talk about, I love the Glades, I love the Glades, it's put up or shut up. Because, and let me just be honest, I'm from the corner of Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard and Tamarind in West Palm Beach, but I live in a gated neighborhood in Miramar. And Miramar is a beautiful city. And these gated neighborhoods, these houses are nice. And when I go to the Glades, I feel as if I don't have a choice but to do something. And I come home and I'm mindful that I am privileged. Even with my humble beginnings, I'm still privileged. And my kids have responsibilities and options and opportunities that kids who are 65 miles west do not have. And so I'm there every single week in one way or the other. And let me just say this. I have committed if I get the privilege of serving the people of this district, I will open up an office in the Glades as a member of Congress. You will see me in the Glades, like you've seen me at these food distributions, like they've seen me at Mount Carmel, like they've seen me all over the Glades. They will continue to see me because it's just that important to me.
All right.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right, co-host, your question.
Yeah, so I have a question on immigration. That's going to be another issue that should be dealt with, that I believe should be dealt with at least during this administration, because there've been talk of some sort of program to allow undocumented folks to have lawful status in the United States. The last time something happened was when Bill Clinton was in office right before he left, right? So we're talking over 20 years ago. We're talking like 245I to allow people that came in unlawfully to adjust their status by paying a penalty. There's been several natural disasters or problems in different parts of the world that that the administrations have decided to give people what they call temporary protected status. That's just a status that doesn't get them sent back home, but it doesn't give them anything permanent
Right.
or a path to citizenship in the United States. If you're selected to get this seat, what would be your position on providing a path to citizenship to not only the DACA folks, which that's in limbo now because of some judge in Texas, but if DACA is put back into place, the people that have TPS, temporary protected status, and other undocumented folks, what will be your position on assisting them in getting status in the United States?
Let me be clear. My position is this: give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free. The wretched refuse of your teeming shore, send them to me. I lift my lamp to the golden door. The United States of America is a land that was built on immigrant power, on slave labor. We like to pretend that that is not the case, but it is, to be clear, without question. And all of us as Americans oftentimes get this mentality of, now that I have gotten what I need, and God blessed me and my three, us four, and no more, I'm going to close the door on everybody else. I have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. And so I believe, and listen, my wife is a first-generation immigrant from the Dominican Republic. My children are Hispanic and Black. I got vested interests in this. Mm-hmm. And so, I got cousins who, on my wife's side, they need all the protections that everybody else needs. And they pay taxes like everybody else. And I will do everything I can to fight for them, to make sure that dreamers have an opportunity to achieve what's left of an American dream, to make sure that those who are in temporary protective status, our Haitian brothers and sisters, and people all around the diaspora who have come to this country for a better life, and that's really what it's all about. And who the hell are we to tell someone else you don't have a right to a better life? And so I will fight for those rights until hell freezes over, and then I'll fight on the ice.
All right. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I put up your website is www.dowlingforthepeople.com. Please go and visit his website. There, I'm assuming that you can donate there. You can sign up to volunteer. Just a recap to remind everyone, the primary will be November 2nd, I believe. November 2nd.
That's you have the last day to vote. You can early vote.
Yes, you can early vote. Your last day to vote.
Your vote by mail ballot.
Right. And you have up until, in order for you to vote for the January election, you have up until October 4th to register to vote. That will be your absolute last time to be able to vote, to register in order to vote in the January election. Again, is www.dowlingforthepeople.com. Please go visit Mr. Dowling's website. You can learn more about him. And I'm pretty sure, Mr. Dowling, if people have any questions, they can always reach out to you and you will promptly reach out back. Correct?
Absolutely. They can reach me on Facebook. They can go to my website, dowlingforthepeople.com. Elvin Dowling for Congress. Number 2 on your ballot, number 1 in your heart.
Number 2 on your ballot, number 1 in your heart. All right.
As you close out, there was a question in the chat that someone wanted you to recap. What will be the 3 or 4 items that you want to focus on if you're sent to Congress? So as you wrap up and you're telling folks why they should vote for you and why you should be the choice to be the representative for District 20, and you tell that, just please kind of recap and give us maybe 3 or 4 things that you would like to see happen while you're there.
Sure. Well, thank you all very much for the opportunity to join you tonight. This has been fun, at least for me, and so I really appreciate it. You know, I am who I am. I'm going to fight for real people in a real way. I'm going to do my best to work hard for you every single day, and I'll work hard never to let you down. And so I got 3 things I want to do while I'm in Congress: better jobs, safer communities, and servant leadership. By better jobs, I believe that nobody should work poor, be a working poor in this country. I'm going to fight for $15 an hour. I pay everybody in my campaign $15 an hour. I practice what I preach. I believe in safer communities. I want to reinvest in youth programs across the district and make sure that we have communities that we can be proud of. And I want to make sure that we reinstitute servant leadership. I'm tired of crooks being in office, and I want to make sure that we have someone who's transparent. I will do my best to serve you in a real and meaningful and significant way. Elvin Dowling is too big to fit in anybody's pockets. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Okay. Head over to your other event. We'll be on there.
See you over there.
See you over there. Good luck. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right.
All right.
So,
listen, I think he talked about everybody. He ain't call no names, but
not only did he talk about,
we know he talked about almost everybody.
I don't think he talked about everybody, sis, but I think he took a piece of everybody's stuff for his stuff.
Well, I mean, the issues are going to be pretty much the same. A lot of the answers should probably sound the same because it's all about a particular issue. So that part I'm not surprised about, because it's like, it's going to be about education, immigration, when you think about the universal basic income, free colleges. I mean, these are the issues that are going on. He talked a little bit about like police reform. He did some voting conversation, even though, we didn't specifically talk about the John Lewis bill and the George Floyd bill, but he did bring that up in the conversation. But my takeaway was, he was talking about everybody. He was.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I guess you can do that, but I think more you stand on your record. And he did continue to repeat the things that he's done, being chief of staff of the National Urban League, chief of staff of the National, it
was more like a compare and contrast. So even though what we know that he's talking about everybody, but he was talking about everybody in comparison to himself. That's what I got out of that.
you did that too.
And but his little anecdotes are funny.
Yeah, he was funny. I laughed a little more, more than I
don't know if he really answered the questions per se, but he does get a B for effort.
So he answered the question to the extent that he wanted to answer, and then he talked about what he wanted to talk about. So,
Yeah, I disagree with that, but okay.
I'm saying, like, in the answer, he started talking about what he wanted to talk about, but he did kind of answer.
So you're saying generally he answered the question, but just answered it
generally
the way
he answered the question. With some detail, not a lot, and then he got the quotes, and adages, and
all right. And listen, hey, I mean, shoot your shot. That's all. That's That's all I
can say. We are
say.
not dream killers.
We are not. We are not. We want everybody to have an opportunity. I mean, can you believe we're going to have a libertarian on our show next week? We want everybody.
We're going to talk about what he got. He's the husband, the son, the lawyer,
sister, and he got the wife, the mother, the son, the daughter.
Oh, that was the relatives. I forgot. I thought that was his job titles. All right.
No. That's what he said that he had. Okay. Elvin Dowling said for Congress, he's number 2 on the ballot, and he's number 1 in your heart.
That's right. And we're supporting. We're here to provide the information for everybody to know. The candidates that are out there. So I believe he was pleasant enough. He answered.
I think so too.
But then he did, say some things that not that he said anything that was bad, but he answered the question. Then he kind of spoke on the things that
he just spoke about his experience. He spoke about. And he also stated that these things were facts; they were out there, and so
I mean, he did talk about folks, and I mean, it's stuff. It is stuff that's out there.
It is. I mean, it is what it is. I thought it was a pleasant interview. I thought that, in my opinion, he presented well. Like he spoke well. He seems to understand some of the issues.
Big to fit in anybody's pocket.
And I think that's important for people to see and understand that. I think he was really driving home transparency. What appeared to me was that he was pushing transparency. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, it's a crowded race, and everybody has to be able. Everybody have to be able to say what things. So we will also have. We've confirmed Miss Representative
Taylor coming to see us tomorrow.
Yeah,
I guess she's asking for her. Somebody gave us a message.
Taylor's coming to see us tomorrow, and then the next day we're going to have Barbara Sharif, Commissioner Barbara Sharif, Dr. Barbara Sharif, and then the following week we will have a libertarian coming to talk.
Thurston still has not agreed to speak with us.
So when we're trying to reach out. Yes, we're trying to reach out. Hopefully, we'll get him to be to round out our candidate series.
Everybody else spoke to us. We can't find Imran Siddiqui, but I don't think nobody can find that person.
Find him at all. I don't know
Imran no more.
And he's never been on any forum, so it's always been just the 11, and I, just can't find him. If you
did he get signatures or did he pay?
I don't know. I think he got signatures. Who has not agreed to speak? Perry Thurston has not agreed to speak. I've reached out to him though. I'm gonna give him. We've even sent smoke signals. And so
we did that, but we did contact the offices.
We did contact
all of the offices, all of the phone numbers we had.
And we even put in a phone call. So we're just waiting to see. But if you wanted to hear from Perry Thurston, Suzette Speaks did have an interview.
Let's Talk Justice on the Let's Talk Justice page.
Okay, go on the Let's Talk Justice page, and you will see a recent interview as of, I think it was Saturday.
Full interview,
Yes, with a pair, just him by himself. So if you want to have an opportunity to listen to him, you can go on the, what is it, Justice Speaks?
Let's Talk Justice.
Let's Talk Justice with Suzette Speaks. She interviewed
she's on Facebook and YouTube.
Yep, she's on Facebook and YouTube. So go and see her video because he was on there. Hopefully we'll get him on. But if not, you'll have an opportunity to see him through.
Suzette did a very great job. And we kind of were in there. We was in the chats asking questions.
We was in the comments. We couldn't get them. We had to be
some of our questions answered.
We had to get some of our answers.
Yeah, we was in the chat asking
questions.
We
was in the chat. We do, and we was helping.
Yeah, she did a great job, but we got some questions. We put some questions in the chat.
She did. She allowed a lot of people to, even if they had conflicting views, she allowed everybody to ask a question. So that's what she did. Well, you know what? We're gonna sign on off.
Y'all a mess. In a good way.
Well, you gotta be in it to win it. You know what I'm saying? We just here for people. We just here for the people. As they say,
information.
As they said on the what was the article that picked up our thing?
Red Broward.
Red Broward, we have to be there for the people. Red Broward said that we came and we were scolded.
That's what they came to do.
They came. Well, yeah. Then what happened was they played themselves
in a negative way.
In a negative way. Took a snippet of our video, took like 45 seconds of it, and just they put you on blast, bruh. But anyway, we were trying to be patient, like we do with everybody. And it is what it is. And when I ask a question because I want to learn, not because I'm trying to be shady. Okay, because I think people think I'm trying to be shady. When I asked Elvin Dowling about being in Congress to present a thing or whatever, I honestly thought that people from outside can help. I didn't know that you had to be there to present it.
So the reason why, to be fair, her point was that she drafted legislation. So their lobbyists, they do draft legislation that they provide to the people that they're funding to present. Right. So lobbyists do that. So like whatever company, like the prison, like the private prisons, like those organizations, they draft legislation that they give to the candidates that they funded to present. So lobbyists, they draft legislation.
So lobbyists can draft legislation.
Yes, but they give it to the representative or whoever that they
file it.
Campaign that they funded. They ask them to put forth that legislation.
Okay.
So they do. Yeah.
Okay.
They do that. And
you learn something good. You learn something new every day. I needed to understand that. Yeah, I need to understand that process. Mm-hmm.
So the people they give money to, the candidates that they give money to, they like, listen, y'all, we gave y'all money. This is what we need y'all to do. And this is the language we want the legislation to have, because, those folks already have their attorneys figuring out how they're going to litigate whatever the pushback is going to be. So they know how to draft the language and try to get the legislation passed.
Okay.
Yes, a lobbyist would have experience in drafting legislation.
Okay, but the
benefit of the organization that they're representing, not the people. No.
Oh, okay. So it's not for the people. It's for
the organization might think it's for the people, but it's for the organizations to benefit. In the best possible way.
Oh, I see. Okay, well, it's important that
so we were talking to someone. I was talking to someone, I can't remember who it was. And so you don't want to necessarily say like all lobbyists are bad. That's not what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
But what the point that I want to get across is that for people to understand that people who are lobbyists, they lobby for the organizations that that's paying them. It's not for regular folks. It's for whatever organization, whatever issue it is. That's who you're lobbying for. Because somebody I know, they said like, no, I have a friend who lobby for nonprofits, right? Because there are a lot of nonprofit organizations that want to get money. So there are people who go and lobby, to try to get money for nonprofits or profit organizations. That could be a good thing. That could be a good thing, but I know some nonprofits that ain't doing good things. You know what I'm saying?
I was just gonna say, I know
the ones that lobbyists aren't doing the right thing. But,
I was gonna say there's a whole bunch of nonprofits I know that are making millions. I'm just saying,
and they're the ones that got lobbyists. That they can say and tell them get the money.
Listen, it was important to understand that point, and I never knew that was some of the processes with the lobbyist doing that. So thank you for explaining that to me, and that's the reason why I stopped to ask, because I was like, well, back up, let me understand this. So that's not shade; it's really me trying to educate myself. By myself, because I don't need you to, like somebody says you need to educate these people. Don't do it like that. I'd like,
and this also, some of the listening public may not have fully understand what it is that lobbyists do.
And I did.
They may not have understood why, like when we had the interview with the candidate that was a lobbyist before that, I was kind of pushing back on some of the statements that were being made, because I'm just like, I got a whole different understanding of lobbyists, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. But like we're not gonna, this was Elvin Dowling's night.
Yeah, it was.
I think he came, he spoke, and if you are impressed by what it is that he said and the way he answered his questions, then that's the candidate you should support.
Yep. And if you're getting this at the tail end, go onto our YouTube page, like, subscribe, and share. and watch the video. We made it kind of short. Well, an hour is not short, but it's short because he had another thing to go to. But he gets to the thing, and yes, he is mentioning some people without mentioning names, but it is what it is. All fair in love and war. He
gave me some Jesse Jackson vibes.
He sure did, didn't he?
Right, with all the rhyming.
Girl, I felt like I was at church. At one point, I felt like I was at church. I was like,
we went to church. I
was waiting for the spirit to hit me.
We went to church.
Yeah, I was at church for a second.
We was in church.
I was at church. But it was I thought it was a great, pleasant interview.
Definitely great, pleasant interview.
Yep. So if you are interested, there is a panel going on right now at 6 with the.
It's not at 6 or 6:30.
6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Florida. What is it? Florida. Shoot.
I gotta look it up. Let me see if I got the.
Let me see what it is, because if I do, then I come off with this. Florida. It's Florida something. It is with the.
Okay, hold on. It is Florida. Wait. What's the name of the?
I'm trying to go find it. I can't see it. It's Florida.
Go to the link.
Oh, Florida Rising. Is with Florida Rising. If you go on Facebook and type in Florida Rising, I think Florida Rising Broward, you will find them. So they have the candidates tonight from 6 to 9:30. If you want to hop on and listen to them, that would be great. That this group, Florida Rising, is grassroots organization. So they're going to be asking questions for the people. So I suggest you all jump on there and see it. Is going to be on Facebook Live. And I think they also have a YouTube page to go into. So let me see.
When you go to the link, it's going to have you register.
Yeah, you're going to have to register to go in.
Mm-hmm.
So go ahead and register. I'm just.
Yeah, it is. But it's live on Facebook on their page, Florida Rising page.
Okay.
Just found it. It's live on Facebook on their Florida Rising page. It has already started, so you can go ahead and watch it live on Facebook if you don't want to go into the actual meeting itself.
There you go. Florida Rising.
Yes,
so
the candidates are there.
Scoot on.
There's some folks out of Miami that's there. Emmanuel Morel. I see Priscilla Taylor. And I see the Libertarian candidate is also there too.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Very
Mike
nice.
Termet.
Very nice. All right. Well, they're live right now.
Elections matter. Elections matter. Elections matter.
And your vote matters, right? Even though they may try to suppress your vote, but your vote matters, and we're going to make it through. Just because they think they can stop us one way doesn't mean that we can't find a way. What is one thing I learned from Sandra, and I keep using it? Necessity is the mother of invention. Is that what you? Is that okay? So we can invent other ways, legal ways, to make sure that our vote still matters and it still counts, right? Absolutely. So let's go over. November 2nd is the primary. This is a closed primary state. You only if you're
all those MPAs registered Democrats.
You still got time. You still got time. MPAs.
Push that party affiliation.
You still got time. All right, so we'll see you guys on the flip side tomorrow. We'll have
Priscilla Taylor coming.
Priscilla Taylor. The following day, Commissioner Sharif.
Dr. Barbara Sharif.
Dr. Barbara Sharif. Commissioner.
First female mayor of Broward County.
Yes, we'll have her. And then if we don't hear from Thurston's people, we'll round out our series of candidates with the Libertarian.
Mike Termet.
I don't know if we're saying it right.
I'm going to go with that for now.
Okay, Mike Termet. Okay.
All right, then.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
See you tomorrow.
Okay, bye.